I'd like to invite Fodé up here. And you can have the stage to yourself because you kind of felt the
Sorry, I get nervous, really nervous with public speaking, unfortunately, but I'll try to do my best. So my name is Fodé. I was born in Senegal in West Africa, and I migrated to the United States in '94 to go to college, actually, in Kansas, somewhere in Kansas. But before that, there was like a long, long kind of story just to get there, even for me to be here today, giving this speech, basically. So my dad was a math teacher in my high school. My mom never had a job, so she was a homemaker and raised us, me and my brother. So my whole life, I grew up in the Michael Jordan era. So I wanted to go to the land of Michael Jordan. That was like my only purpose in life is to go where this guy, this black dude that looks like me, is kicking ass. I want to go to wherever he's at and just do what he's doing, right? So I played ball a little bit from when I was 15 to about 18. My dad saved a lot of money, everything that he had pretty much, to help me get to the States. But unfortunately, actually in '94, our local money got devaluated. So Senegal is a French colony, which means that actually our money is printed and made in south of France. I don't know if you can imagine that. It's almost like if China came to America and decided to pretty much take over control of making and printing dollar bills, basically, right? So what it was is during the Second World War, when France was under occupation by Germany, when the Germans came, they took away the French money actually, and they gave them their own money. They gave them specially denominated Deutschmarks to use in France. So allegedly, after the war ended, France realized that they can do the same thing to African countries. So before they pulled out of occupation or colonialism, whatever, they decided to pretty much make this money for these African countries, which they pretty much control and print and manage and do all these things. So in '94, somehow, one morning, we got up and they said, okay, now your money is worth 50% of what it was worth before. So all the money my dad saved to get me to college, all of a sudden is worth 50%. So I go to the US Embassy, and of course they tell me, you don't have enough money to basically go to United States, right? I was heartbroken. I pretty much cried the whole week. But for some reason, the guy told me, say, hey, your father said that he actually has a math book. Maybe you should come back and maybe we can talk about actually maybe the royalty of that book and whatever else, right? So I went back to the embassy and I showed him this thing. And he asked me, I didn't even speak English. He said, what do you want to do in the United States? I said, I want to study computer science and play basketball like Michael Jordan. right? But he said, your dad doesn't have enough money. I said, yes, he does. He has this math book that he wrote, co-authors with 3 other people. He has money. So technically, I have bonds which represent future earnings of my dad's book. So if you just allow me to go to the United States, and I'll promise you that I'll do my best to basically study computer science and play basketball. He looked at me for a second. He said, go ahead. Just like that, actually, right? So a few weeks later, I'm on my way to Kansas in America. So as I get there, I realized that my whole dreams pretty much got shattered because the guy at the embassy actually was right. I didn't have enough money, right? So the money that my dad gave me was supposed to last me for about a couple of years. It pretty much ended in the first year itself, right? And forced me to pretty much drop out of college. And I'll come back to this actually why this is so important, because I still go back to the money being devaluated where I was from, which actually hindered me to pretty much finish my college education, right? My second broken dream was basketball. I got to the United States and I realized that I was just having fantasies about being Michael Jordan, but it wasn't going to be that easy because every single kid that I met was pretty much had their eyes on the NBA, and they've been playing basketball since they were 2 years old. I started maybe a little too late. So I called my dad and I said, okay, maybe I'll leave it alone and focus on computer science, which actually ultimately I did. So fast forward a few years later. So now in 2010 or so, I discovered Bitcoin. Because in 2008, if you guys remember, there was the financial crisis. And for the first time, actually, I started watching CNBC, which I never really watched before, and reading money books and financial systems and all these things. And everything brought me back to 1994. And I was like, wait a minute. this actually Bitcoin thing might actually work. So I read the white paper, and the first thing that I thought about actually was Africa, as a matter of fact. I never thought about like really getting Bitcoin to make money, to gain profit and all these things, whatever, because I thought about like where I'm from, and I said, okay, obviously we don't own our own money, right? We have another foreign sovereign entity coming to control the money from our people itself. So how do we get around from this? And ultimately, what I saw is a piece of open source software that's pretty much like permissionless. Anybody can use, it's open, and you can build on top of it to basically build the financial solutions, right? And I said, well, maybe it's kind of weird actually. Is it really going to work? So it took me about 2-3 years or so, from 2010, 2011 until about 2015, when I really actually finally believed in myself and actually believed that this particular technology can help 15 of these African countries get away from the French people. And I said it earlier, actually, I don't have nothing against French people, right? I got many, many, many French friends or whatnot. But my problem actually is with the French government that's perpetuating these, exploitation of these African countries. Because to me, it's like everything that the kids, the youth, the sovereign people of these nations are working for is going to this entity out in France, as a matter of fact, right? So how do we stop this? Like, to me, actually, that's the question. What we can do, one, is pretty much like get France to basically stop printing the money for these countries. But now who's going to do it? Can we actually trust our leaders in Africa to not go to the printing machine and actually make more of this money, right? So what is the other option? The other option that we have is this permissionless global monetary system that anybody in the world can use. We don't have to trust no president, no ministers, nobody to basically make the money for us or actually allow us to build a better future. That's something different from what these freaking French fucks have been doing. And excuse my language, right? But that's a reality. But that's a reality, right? So imagine in '94, I go to the States. Here we are, 2021, almost 25, whatever years later, right? We are here and we're talking about the same problem. So obviously there's a problem. It breaks my heart whenever I go from the United States to Africa and back, because I always feel like I'm living in two parallel worlds. And that's not right. I'm over here, jumping into Ubers, grabbing lattes, chilling, like life is good, right? I go back home and it's like dire poverty, right? Every time somebody actually say the word Africa, people feel sorry for you or something. I don't want that feeling. I'm a smart and able person, and there's millions of other like smart, able people in Africa as well, right? So at some point you're like, okay, well, what is the actual root of the problem itself? And I don't want to make it racial or anything like that, right? But to me, it's like Black people all over the world suffer from the same plight. I almost feel like we don't have respect because we never actually had access to finances and to resources, right? No matter where I went, I always like experienced like racism or some kind of crap like that before. But I don't want to make it about racism because ultimately what it is like we have a group of people that are like very disadvantaged. You go to Europe, you go to Asia, you go to Saudi Arabia somewhere, you go to somewhere in America as well. It's the same thing, right? So how do we do to basically allow for this group of people to finally actually have financial freedom? And this is where I see personally Bitcoin as a tool to help this group of people, particular group of people, actually gain financial freedom from whatever actually oppressor it is, right? So ultimately, what I want to leave you with is this, is that like Bitcoin is a tool to fight oppression. And I keep saying this, right? Because if we focus and say, okay, well, there's an obvious problem. We don't want these people to rule our people. We want a better opportunity for the kids that are like maybe 15 years old, 10 years old, growing up, to have a better future compared to actually what France basically gave them. Now, we don't want their money, they can keep it. They don't have to print it, whatever else it is, right? But we can use this tool again that's open source and permissionless to build a better future for ourselves. And that's why personally I'm excited about Bitcoin, and that's why I dedicate myself to it 100% of my time, And ultimately, like to me, excuse me, I get emotional talking about this thing. This is crazy, man, because we have to do better. The world is messed up. Like Morpheus basically told Neo in the Matrix, right? You know something is wrong. You just cannot quite figure actually exactly what it is. But something is obviously wrong when a country prints the money for other people. Like a sovereign nation, right? You know what I mean? So ultimately, I believe that we can use this beautiful, beautiful technology to basically change the world. And that's what I dedicate myself to. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love it. You can pass to Fodé. So, because I'm gonna up next, both you and Farida, I want to ask, because what you're discussing is the idea of self-sovereignty, an instance where even just within a family unit, somebody can say, no, you're not allowed to hold the fruits of your labor in a self-sovereign wallet in any way, shape, or form. You have no economic autonomy. You are subject to what I say. And what you guys have been talking about has been that at an international and national level. And it's interesting how, regardless of the scale, it applies to everyone that is in a situation where they don't have that say. And for you guys in particular, you're talking about a country that is effectively able to export their inflation directly into your economy, basically buy up your goods that you create, all of your resources, and devalue the currency that they're buying it with. Obviously, Bitcoin is volatile. How do you message around obviously it's early stages of Bitcoin, it has to be much larger to be less volatile, which we hope will continue to come over the years. But when you're messaging around that and people are saying, we want protection against the drop in purchasing power of the currency we're using now, but this is so volatile. How do you message that to people when you're talking about Bitcoin?
Well, it really, again, it all comes down to like education, you know, ultimately, right? Because it's almost like what happened in El Zonte. Right? As I see Mike Peterson over there, man. Like this guy's a legend, you know. The idea is like, I feel like over time, people get used to it, as a matter of fact, right? So my advice usually, or the way that I approach it, is that we need, again, adoption to actually have like stability in the price itself. But we don't know how far we are from adoption. Is it going to be 5 years from now, a decade from now, or whatnot, right? But I understand your point that if you're poor, you cannot afford to actually lose money or have less money, obviously, right? Yeah. You cannot wake up today, your wallet is $100, and tomorrow it's about like $60 or $70, right? Yes. I gave my mom some Bitcoin. Every time the price goes down, she calls me. You know, but if my mom understands Bitcoin, anybody in the world can actually understand Bitcoin. Yeah. Because she would call me and say, what happened? I was like, what do you mean what happened? She said, oh, the price went down so much this morning. I was like, oh my God, how do I even explain this? You know? But now she sees like the flow. Since I gave her the BTC, it's been almost a year now. And now she's been through the ups and downs of this particular currency itself. And I try to like, her or anybody, my cousins or like anybody in Senegal that I basically talk to, I just try to explain that this money right now is volatile because again, it doesn't have enough adoption. But the idea is like pretty much to acquire this digital asset and play the long-term game.
Just really quick down the line, I would love to get one resource that has helped you along your Bitcoin journey from each person, whatever it may be. It could be a book, it could be a video, it could be anything.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So in 2013, I believe, there was a great course by Princeton University called Bitcoin and Cryptocurrency Technologies. That's really the course actually that changed my whole actually life, I said, going forward. It's a bit technical when you go through it a little bit, but it's called the Bitcoin Cryptocurrency Technologies. No, Bitcoin and Cryptocurrency Technologies by Princeton. And the teacher was Arvind Narayanan. Awesome. And it's a great, amazing course. And of course, my academy, which is going to open. I don't want to. Thank you. I don't want to be on some shameless self-promotion, but I do have it's called the Bitcoin Developers Academy, and it will launch on November 16th in El Salvador during the Adopting Bitcoin conference. So my idea is that to be able to allow anybody to learn Bitcoin application development, not necessarily protocol level, low level stuff, but at least to write applications on top of Bitcoin and allow for anybody anywhere in the world to earn in Bitcoin writing software right where you are. No need for no brain drains and dying on boats and trying to get to Europe and all that stuff. I really want to help change the trajectory for the youth.
That's fantastic. Let's give everybody a round of applause. Thank you guys so much.